Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back to another edition of Go Long Live. I am Barry Long the second, not the first, not the third. I am the second. All right. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live on today's California.com, today's Canada.com. It is Monday. We had a great weekend of sports. If you're an LA sports fan, tough loss that we saw on Saturday night. We're going to talk about the Dodgers here in a shortly. We're also going to talk about these NFL games that we saw yesterday. We saw some blowouts. We saw some good teams, really good teams look really bad. And we're going to talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about my Lakers getting their first victory. And there was a Carmelo Anthony sighting. And I told y'all back in 2019 when I worked on a different sports show that Carmelo Anthony would make a splash for the Lakers. And I just didn't know it would come in 2021, but it is obviously here. He dropped 28 points yesterday in a Lakers victory. We'll talk about that as well. Mo Murphy will not be joining us today, but Mo Murphy will be back tomorrow. Sage Alvarez will be joining us later on in the show. And yeah, man. Hopefully. And sorry about that. So yeah. It was a great weekend of sports, and people have been talking about my hats. This is a newer Lakers hat. I haven't worn this one on the show yet. And I just want to say before we get into sports, this is my Golden Girls shirt, right? And I saw my guy Randall, he works down at Plan B. I saw him, he was wearing the same shirt. You can pick it up at Walmart. All right. But yeah, Golden Girls was my show, man, back in the day when I was a little kid. I used to watch it a lot. But we got into a debate. And I said, who was the best Golden Girl? This fool told me Betty White was the best Golden Girl. Now, Betty White is the most famous Golden Girl, okay? She's the only one that's still alive, okay? But she wasn't the best Golden Girl. If you really know that series, you really watched that sitcom, everybody knows the best one was Sophia. Come on, it was the mom. all the innuendos that she used, all the subliminal, just subtle things that humor that they had. But everybody knows she was the best one. Betty White, she was sweet, but Sophia, she didn't have no warning. She would just come out of nowhere and say the craziest things. All right, so this is Go Long Live. I am Barry Long the second. And we're talking sports. Now, first of all, I want to get into the Dodgers. The Dodgers ended up losing to the Braves 4-2. And if you watch that game, it was one of the most intense playoff games that we've seen so far, up until Eddie Rosario hit that home run, that 3-run shot. And if you're a Dodger, you just knew. If you're a Dodger fan, you just knew, man, based off everything the way it's been going this year, with the injuries, with the decisions that have, questionable decisions from Dave Roberts, with all the little things that have happened with the Dodgers, you knew that this with Trevor Bauer, that situation, he was supposed to be the best pitcher on our staff, and he had this whole sexual misconduct, crazy story, and he was unavailable. But all the injuries and Justin Turner going down late, you knew that this was going to come to an end. You knew we weren't going to win the World Series, and ultimately it came to an abrupt end in Game 6. And hats off to the Braves. The Braves have an amazing team, an amazing lineup. And there was one key moment where Ron Washington, the third base coach for the Atlanta Braves, did not let Arnold, the catcher for the Braves, didn't let him go around third because Mookie Betts made a great play on a double, and he thought, maybe he's going to get out. It was a tie ball game at that moment. And he said, in his head, why would I send this guy home knowing he might get out when I have my hottest hitter coming up in Eddie Rosario? And the broadcasting team did a great job of announcing it and talking about it and highlighting that. And it felt like the longest at bat ever. Rosario just kept fouling ball after ball after ball after ball, and finally hits a home run. And you see that great fan base. They always doing the they are one of the best fan bases in baseball. You saw how hyped they got, electrified that entire stadium, and at that moment I knew that it was over, and it did come to an end. And hats off to the Braves. They've dealt with injuries themselves, but they've got one of the hottest lineups in baseball right now, and they're going up against the Astros, who have been, longly considered cheaters by a lot of people that love baseball and that know the sport. They're not cheating this year, but we hope that the Braves do defeat the Astros. I hope for a fact. But yeah, so where do we go from here, Dodgers? Time to regroup, time to get healthy, and just time to to get all of our horses back in the stable. I mean, you're gonna have Clay Kershaw, you're gonna have Dustin May, hopefully, eventually. You got to get Justin Turner healthy. Got to pay these guys, and you got to just come back. And the good thing about being a Dodger fan my whole entire life is all I wanted to do was see one World Series. That's all I wanted. I was like, Jesus, just give me one. And I got one last year. So although it was a shortened season, I feel like, this year I'm cool. And I'm cool that we're out of the playoffs. We'll be back. And it's just great to see, the Dodgers being great. But it's also great to see a fan base like Atlanta being able to celebrate and go to the World Series again. They haven't been since the late 90s when they had that devastating pitching rotation with Glavine and Maddox and Avery and Smoltz and Millwood. I mean, they had John Rocker coming out the bullpen looking crazy, looking like a real bull. John Rocker came out the bullpen like an actual bull in a bullpen. Like that, straight up. He was crazy. He used to run out in a full speed sprint. But yeah, the Braves are back, and it's good. It's just certain franchises in sports, like the Celtics and the Lakers, when they're good, it feels right. When the Cowboys are good, to me, it feels right. And when the Braves are good, it just feels right. And, Acuna went down, but you got Riley and Rosario and Jock Peterson, who was a former Dodger, going back to the World Series for a second time in a row on different teams. That's a great story too. But yeah, just hats off to the Braves, and it's an incredible team, and we'll see how far they can go. But their pitch has been stepping up, and Brian Snitker, the manager, he's been pushing all the right buttons at all the right times, and it's fascinating to watch a baseball playoff game with that much drama, with the fans waving the towels and just the drama behind it is just amazing. All right, so now we are Go Long Live. This is Coachella Valley's sports talk show, and we are live on CoachellaValley.com, today'scalifornia.com. We're live on Twitter. Please comment and leave us a little comment. We'll respond promptly. Now, we got to talk about NFL because we saw some great games yesterday. Well, actually, we saw some terrible games yesterday. I can't remember a Sunday where it was that many blowouts. I mean, you saw blowout after blowout. The Ravens, who were looking like one of the top teams in the AFC up until they played the Cincinnati Bengals, they ran into a juggernaut in the Cincinnati Bengals. And if you didn't think that the Cincinnati Bengals were for real because they had a 4-2 record, if you didn't think that they were for real, now you know they're for real. And Joe Burrow is absolutely the truth. And it was as a Ravens fan, it was tough to watch, Lamar Jackson struggle that way. Tough to watch the defense just get mauled. I mean, Joe Mixon can run all over you. I mean, Jamar Chase, this guy was being criticized for dropping the ball, prior to the draft. And even after the draft, people were saying, oh, did you see his one preseason game? He dropped this ball. He ain't been dropping nothing. My man's been catching everything, and he made an incredible play on just a quick slant route. They took it to the house for 82 yards. It was amazing. And this guy, in my opinion, is going to be the rookie of the year so far. But Joe Burrow, I mean, this is basically his rookie season too. He only played a couple games before he was injured last season. So, I mean, he had a lot of time to sit and study on the sideline and wear the headset. But at the end of the day, Joe Burrow is the truth. And when I saw them defeat the Ravens 41-17, we're looking at the Ravens are going to be okay, but they do have to play the Bengals again. But we're looking at the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Browns potentially making it to the playoffs in this division. But right now, if you were to take a screenshot of the AFC playoff picture, you would have 4 teams from the AFC North in the playoffs today. Pittsburgh being the 8th seed or the 7th seed, whatever. So that this is going to be an interesting division that we see moving forward all season long. And Joe Burrow looks like he's ready to win this division. And he doesn't look like a rookie. He doesn't look like a second-year player. My man looks very poised in the pocket, and he's got weapons, and he's using them. So there was a great performance by the Bengals. We saw the Giants defeat the Panthers 25-3. The Giants came out of nowhere with this victory, but what it really stood out to me in that game was that Sam Darnold is not the answer. Not in Cleveland. I mean, not in Carolina. So we've heard a little bit of rumors that maybe they were looking for Deshaun Watson trades. They were trying to put something together. Now they're getting a little bit louder because of the victory. They lost to the 1-5 Giants. who are now 2-5, a 25-3. It was a horrible performance by Sam Darnold. And sometimes when you watch him, you're just like, man, what is he thinking? What is he looking at? What is he doing? like, what is my man doing all week? Great guy, just not a great quarterback. So, I'm rooting for Sam Darnold, but it's just been rough for him. So, and then I also saw, games like the Bears. The Bears lost 38-3 to the Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers were going to win that game when you saw this on the schedule, but you didn't know that the Bears were going to look so terrible on offense. It feels like Matt Nagy does not know what the hell he's doing. It feels like it's time for him to go. I feel like it doesn't matter if you have Justin Fields there, Andy Dalton, or what's the other guy? Nick Foles. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. Who's calling the plays is the problem. It doesn't matter if it's the OC or if it's the head coach, Matt Nagy. They need to go. They all need to go. Matt Nagy has been, considered a guru because of the 1 year that he was the offensive coordinator for Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City is a well-oiled machine, and that's Andy Reid's team. And Eric Bieniemy is doing a hell of a job, but I mean, I don't know. I think Matt Nagy is just being regarded too high, and I think it's time for him to go before you mess up this guy's career, Justin Fields. So, yeah, he had 3 interceptions. He looked terrible. The Cardinals won 31-5 against the Texans, but let's pump our brakes. They are still undefeated. They are looking really good, and it's looking better and better week by week. But once they start getting into some of these tougher games later on in the season, we'll see if the Cardinals are about that life. But right now, I'm thinking that they are about that life. And Kyler Murray is my candidate for MVP right now. This is Go Long Live. I am Barry Long the second, not the first, not the third. I am the second. Now, the game that stood out to me the most was going to be this matchup between the AFC powerhouses, and this was a rematch of the playoff game last year, the playoff game 2 years ago when the Chiefs went down 21-0 to the Titans, and they came all the way back and won that game in shocking fashion. But yeah, it was the Titans and the Chiefs, and everybody was excited to watch this game. I was more excited to watch this game than I was the Bengals and the Ravens, and I'm a Ravens fan because I just wanted to see what both of these offenses, both of these explosive offenses could do against the other team's weak defenses, because you have Kansas City, who basically doesn't have a defense. I mean, they might as well just have 11 players on offense and 0 players on defense, because that's what it looks like some weeks. And then you got a team like the Tennessee Titans, who gave up 34 points to Buffalo, or 31 to Buffalo. But they look. I mean, they were looking terrible in the secondary. I mean, the linebacker core is probably the only thing that's really good on Tennessee. I don't like the pass rushers. At the end of the day, it's 2 bad defenses, and I was excited to see 2 good offenses against 2 bad defenses. And I thought it was going to be a close game, a shootout, but no, it was only a shootout on one side. And Pat Mahomes struggled mightily. And for all the criticism that the Chiefs have been getting this season, I think a lot of the criticism needs to be directed at my man Pat Mahomes, and it's just the reality of the situation. His numbers didn't look good at all yesterday. 20 of 35, 206 yards, no touchdown passes, and he had 1 interception, which was a tip ball. A lot of his interceptions have been tip balls, but a lot of them are not good throws, and that's the reason why they're getting tipped. He's trying to fit him into a tight window, into a tight space, or he's throwing it behind a guy and the guy's tipping it and it's going up into the air and it's being intercepted. But all I know is that Derrick Henry had more touchdown passes yesterday than Pat Mahomes, and that can never happen. That can never happen. But Pat Mahomes, we know what Pat Mahomes is going to do. He's going to bounce back. That's a terrible picture of him, by the way. that makes the meme even more funnier to me, that he looks like Roseanne's daughter. Let's see if we still have that meme. We do. They look just alike. I don't care what anybody says. But all right, back to my Pat Mahomes soliloquy. Now, Pat Mahomes, he will bounce back. He is Pat Mahomes. He's going to be there when the dust settles. We know that. But right now, he's playing terrible. He's tied with Zach Wilson for the most interceptions by a quarterback this season. He's last. He's dead last in turnovers at the quarterback position, and he's dead first in money at the quarterback position. Now he's going to get a lot of criticism because he just signed that big deal, and deservedly so. To whom much is given, much is required. But he's got to play better. They tried to upgrade the offensive line in the offseason because that was a main issue, and it was really reared its ugly head during the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. They tried to upgrade that offensive line. That he still has weapons. He's got emerging weapons like Brian Pringle. Still has Tyreek Hill. He's got no running game right now. And teams are just dropping back. They're just coming out in a nickel set, putting three down guys, dropping everybody back, and he's trying to fit in these windows. And he knows that he's got to make a play at certain times of the game because his defense is non-existent. They literally should just not even go out on defense. They should just be the offense versus nobody because that's what it looks like. And he was able to hide some of those negative parts of that defense. He was able to hide some of those weaknesses that they have. He was able to cover it up and make it look like, okay, yeah, we won 45-42. Yeah, y'all gave up 42 points, but I dropped 45, and hey, we won the game. And this year it's not happening that way. And when you get behind early, you got to throw the ball even more. And you start forcing the ball even more. And that's what we're seeing from Pat Mahomes. So Pat Mahomes knows he's got to play better. And I really like, what he said at the podium. He was very humble, and he's going to bounce back. And one thing we know about Pat Mahomes is he will bounce back. And some of those plays that he makes, improvising, some of those plays are like, oh, no. Yes. It's like, yes, man. Like, yeah, like Pat Mahomes does a lot of improvisation. And that's why we see some of these great highlights, some of these great throws that are off balance. But at some point, you gotta play within the system, and he'll get better, and he'll make better decisions. He'll use his checkdowns more. He'll throw the ball away more. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs are struggling, and like I said earlier, on like this month, I do not believe that the Chiefs will make the playoffs. I know it sounds like a hot take, but it's not. It's just the reality of the situation. Their defense is not good enough, and Pat Mahomes right now is not good enough. And on the flip side of that same game, 27-3, we saw a great offense. We saw a great offense, but it is led by Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback, but Derrick Henry, in my opinion, he's the best. He might be the best of all. We'll see, because it's all about longevity, especially for a running back. Because all it takes is one hit, one injury, and it could all be over. But Derrick Henry just seems like the most durable, just the most reliable, consistent plan week in and week out, especially when the weather gets colder. When we start getting into these playoff months, start getting deep into November, December, and in January, what you're going to need in those cold weather climate games is you're going to need a running game. You're going to need a running back that you can hand it to, and that could just break down that defensive line, break them down. And yeah, he might be getting 1, 2, 3 yard carries in the beginning, in the first and second quarter. But as the game progresses and as those defensive players get tired, those 2 and 3 yard gains turn into 4, 5, 6 yard chunks. And then eventually, boom, you hit them for an 80-yard run. And Derrick Henry is going to be the rushing leader this year, barring injury. But he's also, in my opinion, going to be considered, if he can keep this same level of play up for the next, 3-4 years, he, in my opinion, is the best of our generation. And yeah, I said it. He's better than Adrian Peterson. He is also he's better. He's not better than Barry Sanders. But if we see more of a sample size and he plays longer, then he is better than Barry Sanders. Now, I wasn't around for Jim Brown, or O.J. Simpson. I've seen highlights of O.J. Simpson, and he's a terrible person, and I wouldn't recommend anybody go watch his highlights. But he was a good running back, and people consider him, one of the best. But Derrick Henry, man, I can't think of anybody in the game right now that is comparable to Derrick Henry. And one of my buddies told me that his brother Adam said that, shout out to Pete Campbell. He said Adam said that that Derrick Henry is like a bowling ball with razor blades. Like, who wants to tackle this guy? Like, this guy's going to run over you. He's going to stiff arm the hell out of you. He's going to put you in the dirt. And it's just not going to be pretty. And it's going to hurt. then he's gonna score. And he seems untackleable. And I think Derrick Henry is a star. And if the MVP could be somebody other than a quarterback this season, I would hope it would be Derrick Henry. Like eventually we're gonna have to break away from this. Quarterback is always the MVP. And give it to somebody like Derrick Henry, who's putting up a historic season, and hopefully he can break the rushing record. It's very difficult to break Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record, but if anybody can do it, it's Derrick Henry, and I enjoy watching Derrick Henry play and run. And a lot of people are, people like the casual football fan likes them to air it out, likes that West Coast offense, likes the passing, the high flying game, just like basketball. Everybody likes the 3-pointers and stuff, but sometimes watching somebody take it to the hole and pound that rock inside is great to watch, and that's what we see from Derrick Henry. And yeah, it's an old school approach, but it's working. And we've seen what the Titans have done in the last 7 days. Going back to last Monday, they beat the Bills, who everybody considered was the best in the AFC. Now they beat the Chiefs, who are the reigning AFC champions. Yes, they could beat the Ravens, and they can beat anybody. And I think it's time for us to start talking about the Tennessee Titans as serious Super Bowl contenders, because that's what they are. And Mike Vrabel is a great coach. He's considered, one of the new old school type head coaches. He's not the new school like Sean McVay, like Zach Taylor, like Matt LaFleur, like Kyle Shanahan. He's not an offensive guru with that's an offensive play caller guru. What he is he's an old school coach. And yeah, when the camera catches him on the sidelines, a lot of times it's like, oh man, he's always showing too much emotion. I don't want my head coach showing that much emotion. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, it's kind of like Pete Carroll, but I just love it. I love the way that he wears his heart on his sleeve, and sometimes the camera will catch him and he's like, it's like this guy makes the craziest faces, but you gotta love it. And I think the Tennessee Titans have kind of taken on his personality, and that culture that he's set there. It seems like it's going to work for a long time. And we forget about Mike Vrabel. He was a great linebacker back with the Patriots. Great linebacker. And they even put him in on offense some of the times to play tight end. He was one of the guys that was willing to do anything for the team to win. Okay. And he's kind of brought that same mentality into Tennessee. And it is fun to watch, man. And I'm telling you right now that they went out and picked up Julio Jones, and they got A.J. Brown on the other side. They got a guy named Raymond. They got a guy named Westbrook. They got weapons all over the field. But their biggest weapon is Derrick Henry. And when they went out and got Ryan Tannehill, they needed a steady quarterback, and people were like, Tannehill? Ryan Tannehill. That's what I call him. Tannehill. But he's been playing some great football since he's been in Tennessee. And he's got a big arm. And when they get that running game going and he gets that play action going and the box is loaded up, he is unstoppable. So I like Tennessee, and I feel like they are the dark horse in the AFC. And people need to start respecting. Put some respect on their name. Put some respect on Tennessee Titans' name. And y'all better tighten up because the Titans are for real. This is Go Long Live. I am Barry Long. The second, not the first, not the third. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, today'scalifornia.com. We are live all over Twitter. And shout out to everybody who has been sharing the show, liking the show, who's been commenting on the show, who's been watching it. If you've been watching, we love you too. You can watch it, not say nothing. It's all good. All right, so some other games. Another game that real quick I wanted to talk about was the Rams and the Lions. That was an exciting game that we saw. It had a big storyline behind the fact that Jared Goff was the quarterback of the Rams last year, and you had Matt Stafford who's the quarterback of the Lions. They basically flip-flopped because Sean McVay wanted to get Jared Goff the hell out of LA as fast as possible. Like he bought his ticket and said, "Yo, please leave right now. Like immediately, give me your key card. You're no longer allowed in the building." But yeah, so we saw that, and there was a lot of drama surrounding Jared Goff's return to LA. And Matt Stafford against his former team. It was a great game. We thought it would be a blowout for the Rams, and the Lions would go away quiet, would go away easy. But no, they didn't go away quietly, and they made it a game. It was one of the closest games that we saw, one of the most competitive games that we saw yesterday. But of course, we know the Lions are always the Lions, and they made some great plays. They had some exciting little trickery plays. They had a fake punt, fake field goal. They pulled out everything. They pulled out everything they have in the playbook, and it still wasn't good enough to get their first victory. And you feel bad for a guy like Dan Campbell, who he's another coach that wears his heart on his sleeve, like Mike Vrabel. But he's not going to last past this year. And who can last in Detroit? I mean, shout out to Clyde Buff. That's my guy, man. He's a Lions fan. Lions fans, I just feel so bad for y'all, man. I really do hope that eventually the Lions become a winning franchise because I'm 35 years old and I've never seen it. Not once. All right, so tonight we have the Saints and the Seahawks, and this game is going to be, not as fun to watch as if we had Russell Wilson going for the Seahawks. You're going to see Geno Smith tonight. I think that the Seahawks need to seriously consider, because Russell Wilson might miss significant time, I think they seriously need to consider reaching out to Cam Newton or reaching out to one of these other veterans that is just sitting on ice, because Geno Smith is not the answer. And he could come in for one game and throw a touchdown pass, and the whole stadium will be like, Geno, Geno, Geno. But no, no, it's not going to work, okay? At the end of the day, they need to go a different route and pick up somebody, who's available, who is an actual NFL starting caliber quarterback. So I'm looking at this game to be a blowout, a bounce back for the Saints, who have looked up and down this season. We saw them start off hot the first game, and we don't know what you're going to get from the Saints, it seems like, this season so far. So I look for them to play up, to go hard against a decent Seahawks defense. It's not the Legion of Boom, but they still get it done. But they just don't have the quarterback and to get it to those weapons like DK Metcalf and Lockett and those guys. So, and there's no Chris Carson. So I believe that the Saints will win tonight. I believe that Jameis Crab Legs Winston will look like crab legs, old crab legs that we know. Like he's gonna put up some big numbers. He's gonna throw a couple of stupid interceptions too. But I think that the Saints win big tonight. And I'm excited to see what direction that they're going to take it. And as far as the play calling and the trickeries, I want to see them use Taysom Hill a little bit more. But yeah, the Saints are primed to win this game, and Geno Smith is not primed to win this game. So we're going to break that down tomorrow, of course. Mo Murphy will be joining us. So I wanted to also real quick just say this about my Lakers. Okay, the Lakers finally got their first victory, and a lot of people were criticizing them. They lost the first two games. They beat the Memphis Grizzlies 121-118. And LeBron James, he had 19 points. Anthony Davis had 22 points. But you had Russell Westbrook, who had 13 points, 13 assists. If you can get that from Russell Westbrook, night in and night out, because that's what he was putting up. He was putting up numbers like that when he was in Washington, when he was in Oklahoma City by himself, felt like. And you got significant contributions from guys like Kent Bazemore and Malik Monk, who can shoot the lights out. Y'all better be watching Malik Monk. People are talking about there's not enough 3-point shooting on this Lakers team. Malik Monk can shoot the three. All right. And Carmelo Anthony dropped 28 points yesterday, y'all. 28 points. Now, I was on another sports show out here in the desert a couple years ago, and we were talking Lakers, and I told everybody that Carmelo Anthony will be a Laker someday. And we call that the Carmelo Anthony that's a Laker, we call him Mellow Yellow. Okay, that's what I call him. Caryello. Caryello Anthony. And no, don't take that nickname. All right, that's Mellow Yellow right there. But Carmelo, that's a terrible picture of him. But Carmelo Anthony looked great last night, 28 points. And it makes you look like, man, he can't do that night in and night out, okay? This is one of the oldest rosters in the league, and he's one of the oldest players on one of the oldest rosters. But if he can do that a couple nights in, couple nights out, get him some rest, give him a night off here, give him a night off there, come to the playoffs, when it comes to the playoffs, rather, then this guy is going to be able to win you a game or two. And that's all you need. You need Russell Westbrook to fill up the stat sheet. You need him to fill up minutes. You need LeBron James to stop shooting as many threes as he's been shooting and still attack the basket, even though he's not the primary ball handler all the time. You need Anthony Davis to stop settling and get to the rack. And I can guarantee you, I wasn't in that huddle when they were arguing, when he and Dwight Howard got into that little shoving match. But I guarantee you that the root of it was Dwight Howard telling him to stop being soft and get to the cup, because that's who you are. And, tempers are going to flare up throughout the course of an NBA season. You hope it wouldn't be public like that. You hope it would be, behind closed doors in the locker room. But that's just the nature of sports. But, I think that this Lakers team is old. And, you could use another three-point shooter. And maybe there will be some three-point shooters available when the trade deadline gets to that time. But it's earlier in the season. And we're going to know after 20 games what this team is going to start looking like, what rotations are going to start looking like, what pieces need to be added, what pieces need to be subtracted. And I'm confident in Rob Pelinka and Vogel, Frank Vogel, that they can get the job done. So, as with all of LeBron James teams, we see they start off kind of shaky. The first 20 games, he's got to fill out his teammates, got to figure out what their greatness, where their greatest strengths are and their weaknesses are, and then he'll figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I love Carmelo Anthony dropping 28. So for all the Carmelo Anthony haters out there, that is for you. Carmelo Anthony, 28 points yesterday in the Laker victory, was the high score. Not in the game. Ja Morant actually had the most points in the game. He dropped 40. Ja Morant's incredible, 40 points, 10 assists. He's incredible. But yeah, man, this Lakers team finally got a win, and now that they got that monkey off their back, we'll see how good they can be. But we won't. But around Christmas is when when the casual NBA fan starts watching these games. It's around Christmas time. But yeah, just gonna be interesting to see all season long. All right, so we will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is the World Series kickoff, or first pitch, I should say, and we are going to break down a little bit of that. We are also going to try and get Captain Defense to see if he can break down what's going on with the Ravens and if we can bounce back and if we can even win that division, because the Bengals look ready to win that division. We will also be talking about the game tonight between the Saints and the Seahawks, and we'll break it all down. So remember, man, this week, today, tomorrow, every day of your life, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and remember, you are capable of doing anything. You can find me on Twitter at Radio Barry Long. I'm on Instagram at BarryLong_2, and I'm on Facebook at BarryLong_II. All right, see y'all tomorrow. Peace.